Hi, and welcome to Yeshiva Shem Aver. I'm Rabbi David Katz. We are in Parashas Noach. Well set into the new cycle. Questions, comments, or feedback, I can be reached at Rabbi Katz at virtualyeshiva.com. And we're ready to go. Note the new time. Sunday night Israel, 11 p.m. Sfat, will be the Parshas Shavua. The article will be posted. We're a little more liberal this year. Last year it was, I think we hit every single Parsha on Friday. My goal is to get it on Friday. If that doesn't happen, my goal is to not do it on Saturday to achieve the reason for moving class to Sunday. Thus, it would be posted on Sunday. So stay posted, half pun intended, for article postings. And the Gear series, as always, 11 o'clock p.m. Sfat, Wednesday night. Let's go. Into the Haftorah. As we'll go into the Haftorah, onwards into the Zohar, and into the article of the Parsha. The Haftorah is very interesting. A lot of famous themes are coming inside. One is very important. Noah is the redeemer of our Parsha. Whether you want to get into how his soul is related to Mashiach and what kind of redemption, and Noah's a reincarnation to Moses, Noah's a reincarnation of Shem, Moses is Shem and Noah, Pinchas is a reincarnation of Noah. There's a lot of ways to tie this up that have been explained over the years. But on a very fascinating level, Noah's world was destroyed by water. And that's literal. There was a flood, there was a boat, there was a redemption, and the world was destroyed with water. God says, I will never destroy the world again. Now, the interesting thing is that inside the prophecies of Noah, basically from the beginning to the end, King David, who attributes all of Tehillim to Noah, and now we're starting to understand why. First of all, King David gets into the Noahide laws as really the essence of redemption. To make a court of law that's able to try Gog v'Magog according to the Noahide laws, because if man does not know the Noahide laws, then it's akin to God has no means to punish the wicked. So the job of the people is to find the truth of Torah, to develop a Badin that can try evil. And there's no greater expression of mazal than that. The power of God invested through the agency of man, which is why man was created. Thus, what we find is David also explains that in the apocalyptic literature, we're looking for Armageddon and Gog v'Magog, nuclear blasts and eye sockets melting. Everybody's dead. Let's kill billions of people. Let's make it as gruesome as possible. And maybe a couple of us will live. And we'll say, man, that was great. Everyone died and it was disgusting. That's awesome. That's what people say. Thank God for King David, who says, no. That is a furphy, a red herring. The correct way to understand the literature of the prophecies is through the allegory. So, for example, not to exhaust it, but the sea churning, like Noah's sea that churned with water, those are the seas of religion, false teachings. The mountains that crumble and quake, those are the institutions of the false religions. Thus, what you have is all of the allegories of doom and gloom and destruction and death and eye sockets melting are allegorical truths. Thus, when we apply this to Noah's Parsha, and yes, it did happen literally, but in the future, Noah's Parsha turns to the allegorical final redemption. Noah then is a reincarnation of Pinchas. The waters are the false teachings. Again, everything becomes allegorical. So when you follow Noah's Parsha all the way through, you'll find with a fine lens of viewing these issues, there are serious hints towards the final redemption. Thus, the Haftorah also speaks of the sea and the mountains, and it's apropos. Because just as the Haftorah is speaking allegorically, and King David explains how it has to be an allegorical revolution, our Parsha is also allegorical, not in the past. It did happen, but when it will happen in our times, in the era of Mashiach. The Haftorah also speaks about HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the Redeemer. Now, notice the difference when you learn the prophets. I don't even know how often it says Mashiach. I think hardly ever. Mashiach is not really a word commonly used. And this begs the opinion of the Talmud Sanhedrin, Ein Mashiach LiYisrael. There's no Messiah for Israel. They say King Chezkiah, he rose by his own prominence. He tried. He almost succeeded, but ultimately Hashem must do it. King David even says it, the liberation of the nephesh, the part of the soul connected to the body, that only comes from God. And that level of God is called the Goel, the Redeemer. Couple of other topics in the Haftorah. Notice what it says, in all part of your redemption. A nation you knew not will run to you, for you, Israel, will be glorified. Beyond logic. Israel is groomed to believe they are alone and everybody is our enemy. Yet all of a sudden, 1948, 1967, we have Israel glorified amongst the nations, and all of a sudden a nation you knew not is running to you. Who in the world are these Gerim? They say they love Jews, they don't know why. God has glorified Israel, we don't know why. There's a state, we don't know why. It's the end of days program. The Ger Toshav is to come back. Then it talks about, in the Parsha, or in the Haftorah, settling Israel. Where you, Israel, so to speak, won't want to live. Yet the areas will be populated. Boker Tov, Ger Toshav. I mean, it's very clear. Once you have the Ger Toshav in mind, it just kind of seems obvious at this point. It's not even an interesting chiddush. It's just very obvious. I'm hoping you guys are following along with this too. That the surprise factor is quickly wearing off. It's at this point, at least for me, just a given. There are Jews, there are Gerim, and it is one house of Israel. Are you guys seeing that too? Just if you can type one clarification. Joe, don't type, it'll stop recording. But are you guys seeing this too? That the imagery is just off the charts. It's not even a challenge anymore at this point, as far as I'm concerned. It's just Gerim and Jews everywhere. Okay. God says, I'm going to hide from you. It's going to be scary. It's going to be bad. But understand, with great mercy and kindness, I'm bringing you in. So the Zohar talks about this also. The labors of man to reach out to God, awakening from below. This happens all through creation. And we get close to the redemption. And by all logical means, you should say we're going to be redeemed. It's a good ending. Hallelujah. But no. It goes dark. It goes scary. Frightening. And here's where you have the inclination to say that the apocalyptic literature is true. So the Zohar explains, don't jump to conclusions. It's like in a Broadway play, when you change acts, right? The curtain comes down, you hear fumbling behind the screen, and they lift the curtain, and it's a brand new set. That's what God is doing. But only difference is we don't see the new set. It's there, but in its faintest. I guess you could say it's the darkest moment before dawn. Yet it is technically dawn. That will happen in the end of days. And as Shem says, even through that, you have to understand this is all parts of my covenant of peace. Now we'll slide over to the Zohar. This is a little bit dodgy what I've done, but it fits. I did not do the Zohar on Noah because last year we did it very thoroughly in a previous lecture. And the workload of going into the new year is immense, probably over 1,000 pages. You have the introduction to the Zohar. You have Parashas Bereshis 1 and Parashas Bereshis 2. And that is a lot of material. So for Bereshis, we did Bereshis minus creation. Skipping Noah, as I said, I've already done it. We can refer to it, the class in particular. Parashas Noach, we're doing the what's called the Hakdama, the preface to the Zohar, which in non-Jewish books, instead of Sfarim, the preface is like a couple of pages. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's is a couple hundred pages. In the basis of the redemption, the essence of Noah is revealed in that preface. And just for note, Parshas Lech Lecha, this coming Shabbos, the Zohar will be Lech Lecha on target with an infusion of the creation story aspect of Bereshis. I skipped over the creation part again to get into a good working relationship with Bereshis on the Zohar. So after Lech Lecha, we'll be all caught up, and it should be full engines, full steam ahead throughout the year with the Zohar. With that said, we did do the Hakdama. It is the basis of the article. I figured it would be. It's kind of all of the, in the beginning of Bereshis, you get it all in there. So here are some of the things mentioned in the Hakdama to the Zohar. Just off the bat, without explaining it, the idea of two nations keeping Shabbos, that's explained in the Hakdama. Hakdama means preface. We'll get into that. That is the article itself. Very interesting. These are probably just random one-off topics, but I think they're pertinent to mention. Bathsheba and David and Uriah. I'm sure this strikes a nerve in everybody, correct? I know it's a hot topic. Did David sin? What's going on with Uriah? What was up with Bathsheba? Just to whet the appetite, we all know David was destined for Bathsheba. Now, the question that comes up, how could David take Bathsheba in any circumstance if she's a divorcee from Uriah? Does everybody hear the question? Forget about who she's, where she's from and what David's thing with her is, but is it really, really right to explain this as a proper divorcee? The Zohar makes it a fascinating realization. Uriah married Bathsheba strictly to mechanech her. Mechanech means to educate, to grow her up. It was a male influence. This was not a union of normal man and woman, meaning that they had no relations. They had nothing with each other in that area. This was strictly a guy who had a spiritual mission to influence this woman to mature her in a non-sexual way. We all know the rest of the story. David sends him out to war. He dies. David takes Bathsheba. David understands that he sins. Now, again, we all take this as David sins with Bathsheba. No. It comes out that David is now enlightened of the nature of his sins in general. that he understands the mazal, that David has the sin within the nefesh, the portion of his soul that is the most, let's say, animalistic. And David acknowledges that of his animalistic desires. We all know that David had the evil inclination probably bigger than anyone, and the difference with David is he conquers it. That's why David is the essential Messiah. So by that fight alone, David will lose some of those wars, and for that is what Hashem says, you shall not build the temple, for your hands are stained with blood. David realizes this from Bathsheba. Now, a while back, we mentioned Olam Hahu and Olam Hazeh. Olam Hazeh is this world. Right now, here we are, live, this world. Olam Hahu, where you die, where you sleep, the spiritual realm. Anything that is beyond this world is called Olam Hahu. It just means that world. And we say that, or we said in previous lectures, that world, Olam Hahu, the essence of it is there's a Rosh Yeshiva, a dean of studies, teaching Torah. We all come to him with our novelli. He teaches us, and we go, whether we die or come back to life or wake up, whatever it is. Sending angels into this world to inspire man. It is the, I guess, what do you call it? The queen bee of the hive, whatever it is. So, when the Rosh Yeshiva is done, he has given out all of the Torah. Rosh Yeshiva literally means the head of the academy. Then we'll have the revelation of the Mashiach. The Zohar interestingly says, who is this Rosh Yeshiva? We thought it was this one or that one. Was it Rabbi Akiva? All kinds of ideas. And they're not wrong. But the Zohar really fine-tunes its answer. It says like this. There's a world or a chamber called Melech Mashiach, the King Messiah. Now, as much as this may be a person or this is God over the Messiah, it's also a chamber. And in that chamber, there are souls that enclose that chamber. And those souls are the embodiment of the King Messiah. They are the highest level of soul called Yechida, of the 5 levels of soul. What makes them interesting or unique is that their Torah is slightly out of context with the rest of Torah. It's a little different. It's like looking at the face of a messenger and you get the message, i.e. that it's message latent. These souls are message latent. They're a little bit different. And the more we work on ourselves spiritually, we get an acknowledgement of who those people are through time. I'll give you a hint who one of them is. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He says it openly. He's one of those souls. Rabbi Akiva, Moshe Rabbeinu, Pinchas. Right? There's certain souls that have this level. Now, there might be holy people. Let's say, pick one here. It's a tough one. So we go over so many of these names in the Torah. Think of a name in the Torah. Someone who, I'm not sure who, but someone that you might like or admire, but they might not be one of those souls. Yet there are certain souls that really, really resonate. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. When you think of all the Talmudic scholars of the Talmud, Rabbi Shimon really sticks out. When you live in Sfat and you're up here, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is a name that really resonates. And then I'll tell you another one that's really strange. Rabbi Hamnuna Saba. And we're gonna lead into this next thing. Rav Hamnuna Saba. Everyone's saying, huh? Who? What? I'm sure most of you know who he is. Have you ever heard of the Midrash where the letters of the alphabet approach God saying, God, create the world with me? Type 1, except for you, Joe, because I don't want to stop. But type 1 if you've heard this. Yeah, famous Midrash, and we all, it's a Midrash, Yanni, where each letter of the alphabet approaches God and says, God, hi, my name is the Resh, or my name is the Kuf. I want you to create the world with me. God says, well, you're great because you have this attribute, but you're also limited and evil and you have this attribute. I'm sorry, I cannot create the world with you. Eventually, God settles on the bait of the Breshit. It was the bait. He says, you stand for bracha, for blessing, and indeed, I will create the world with you. This is how the Zohar starts in the Hakdama, with Rav Hamnuna Saba. And the Zohar says that Rav Hamnuna Saba is one of these souls that literally extends from that upper place and initiates people into the teachings of the Rosh Yeshiva. And basically, it's the Aleph base. If you've ever had an insight or interest in the Aleph base as a mystical learning tool, you have been approached by Rav Hamnuna Saba. You have been initiated into or invited into a deeper understanding into that Rosh Yeshiva program. It literally is a mazal. If you know about that midrash, and you're all guilty now because I'm telling you, so now you've all been approached just by being in this class. It's an extension from above to get into that type of learning. So that extends from the world to Olam Hahu, and the alphabet is one of the biggest examples of that learning. And what the alphabet is it's literally a farce. Adam received prophecy. It's a whole story about how the letters came down. But when Adam basically formulates the letters such that our Torah today is an example of those letters, that was in one sense the biggest sin he did. Because when God spoke, it's the breath of God we should focus on. Adam focuses on form instead of function. There you go, Joe. And when we have our Torah written the way it is, it comes out as the Torah of Bria. The Torah, where is it? Is it allowed or is it forbidden? Is it kosher or is it treif? And as much as that is a Torah, it is not the highest elevation of Torah. The highest elevation of Torah is when God speaks. The letters are simply the breath of God. So the hey before the word ger, making the word hager, generally you'd say means the ger. That would be the klippa or the evil from Adam. The commentators say, don't say the hey means the. Say it literally means God made a breath. And that breath, by tradition, means, is it the ger tzedek or is it the ger toshav? It can be both. If there's a hey in front of the word ger. Look it up in your own time. Every place there's a hey before the word ger. It's a question, is it the ger tzedek or ger toshav? Which ger toshav even, or which ger tzedek even? Thus the word beis for bereshis. It doesn't have to be with reshis or in the beginning. It can stand for bracha, meaning it becomes a power of its own right. This is the nature of all Chassidus, the sweet dimension of Torah, such that the Baal Shem Tov taught the Maggid of Mezrich. All Chassidic teachings are derived from this parsha. No joke. Parashas Noach, because he is the tzaddik, is the basis of all Chassidic learning. So it's not a coincidence that the Gerim are called Chassidiom Olam. That this is the nature of where we learn Chassidic thought from. Understanding each letter, each word, in its own right. The word is called the word teva, the same letters that make up the word ark. Thus, the Hasidic masters learned the ark is synonymous for the word. And they have a way of learning the Torah by these means. And again, who perfected this? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Such that we say that all those tzaddikim, all those Rosh Yeshivas, either were preceded or came afterwards to Rabbi Shimon. The Zohar is the ark of that yeshiva. That if you want to experience the redemption and safety, says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, then hop aboard the Noah's Ark called the Zohar. If you ever want to give somebody an example, can non-Jews learn Kabbalah? So then, if no, then you're telling me that the Zohar, which Rabbi Shimon calls it himself Noah's Ark, then the Bnei Noach are not allowed on Noah's Ark. Now, if that seems logical to you, have a nice day. Otherwise, then yes, obviously there will be Bnei Noach on Noah's Ark in every way, shape, and form. And I'll close with this on the Zohar. The Zohar, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. In the first temple, when the Shekhinah was there, the offerings that were licked off of the Mizbeach, the altar, came in the shape of a lion. In the second temple, the lion was removed, and we had a dog. The Talmud Sota tells you that the generation of Mashiach will have the face of a dog. Get this. This is really interesting. The Zohar in this Hakdama says that the dog-faced entity that took the offering off of the altar, I mean that which had the face of the dog, they called it Badin. And they say it's the opposite of Bil Adam, as in a non-man, but they changed the mem to a nun, Badin. So imagine this. We have the entity with the face of the dog, which is telling the generation of the Messiah. The Zohar 2,000 years ago called it Badin. Is there any greater expression of our generation now than to explain that what's going on is the Badin generation? I mean, seriously. Look, I mean, if you had one guy to peg the last 15 years to, that we could point to and say, how would you define our generation? Osama bin Laden is it. So maybe the Zohar's onto something. Okay, that's our introduction. How we doing? Everybody good? Everybody with? Let's go. Okay. The non-Jew is not going to keep Shabbos. If he does, he is obligated to die. I'm sure everyone has heard this. In all my classes I talk about Shabbos, I mention this cute little phrase. Only it's not so cute. People take it seriously, and it's very destructive. Now, there are two ways to go about this. The Kabbalistic way or the rationalist way. And we're quoting the Rambam, okay? Because the Rambam is the one they quote. The Goy, and I think it literally says the Goy, that keeps Shabbos is Chayav Misa. He has to die. Now, if you take that as it is, that's Yad Chazaka. That's a strong hand. Yet, what do we say? That the greatest attribute, Noahide law, is to be able to go up and bring down mercy for the people. To sweeten judgment. That is what it's about. So, again, King David wrote, if we can know the Noahide laws in the end of days, we can prosecute Gog and Magog. We all want the non-Jews to keep Shabbos. No Jew alive wants this whole, kill him now, get him out of here. Everybody wants it. The problem is, how do we prove it? And it's not that hard. And the times that we're in explain how. First of all, the Rambam does not say you're going to die. He says you're obligated to die by the hands of heaven and not by the hands of the courts down below. Secondly, what constitutes this killing? The Ein Yaakov brings an example. A king has a wife, and he's staring at her across the room, and he would like to be alone with her. and the fool in the palace, the jester, comes dancing in, and it does a little dance for the wife. Okay, is it safe to assume that guy? I mean, we're going back to medieval times here. He is going to be a goner. I mean, I think that's pretty safe to assume. He's mocking the king, mocking the wife. It's a serious moment, and he's being a moron. That guy's dead. This is what the analogy is. Israel and Shabbos with God is a very serious time. The blessings of the world come down. It's, you take any Yerushalayim, any great Torah, any great honor, any great delight, you plug it into that equation, and that's the nature of it. Now, not everyone's aware of it. Not everyone's treating it that way. That's their own relationship with God. Let's use Mashiach as the ultimate example. That's Mashiach's relationship with God, and it's not a wise idea to mock that. However, if somebody understands the nature of the day, they want to partake in it too, and it's the opposite of mezalzel or mocking, then absolutely is it allowed to keep Shabbos. It's not even really worth the debate. I mean, it's like asking a total Russia wicked guy, how would you like to keep Shabbos? And he says he'll mock. Well, yeah, he's going to mock it. I mean, he's an Amalekite. So short of an Amalekite, you take your average run-of-the-mill Ger Toshav or more so Ger Tzedek, they're not going to mock it. They have not even the right to keep Shabbos. It's borderline obligation. So talk about flipping it on its ear. So you have the rationalist who says, the Rambam says, if you do it, you die. The Kabbalist looks at it and says, come on, we got to understand this. There's a matter within the matter. We must understand what's going on. And people are taking things literally and out of context are ruining it for everybody else. The Tree of Life. The basis of the article explaining Shabbos for Jews and non-Jews is employing the Tree of Life. I'm sure we're all probably familiar with the 10 Sfirot. The first 3 are called Keter, Chochmah, Bina, Crown, Wisdom, Understanding. They are the first 3, which, interestingly enough, in Hebrew, the initial letters of the first 3 spells Gimel Rishonim. The first 3 initial letters Gimel Rishonim spells Ger. Is that an accident? No. Then the next 7, kindness, might, beauty, victory, majesty, foundation, kingship. If you notice, there are 7 laws of Noah. Accident? No. Because the Kabbalistic map is borrowed from the infrastructure of the Noahide. That is the nature of the Noahide. Judaism and Torah is predicated and founded on the skeleton of the Noahide. Now that we have that, there's Malchus, the lowest revelation, and lowest is not good, bad, it's just practically, it's the last one that comes out. That is the Ger, the 7th level, and let's say for all intents and purposes, the Jew is corresponding to the upper triad of Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes. Now there are times where this flips. Sometimes the Ger is Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, and the Jew is Malchus. Therefore, it is not a dogmatic system. It's a dynamic system to explain matters of Torah. I just saw on the internet last night, anybody that follows my teachings knows that I'm a big avid follower of wrestling, and I don't mean the pro style, talking Olympic in high school and college. Wrestled in high school. And America's hero, John Smith, I found a great quote from him last night. He said, anybody who knows the secrets of wrestling will understand that a great wrestler is only predicated on one thing, his ability to change levels, to be high or to be low. And I realize this is, oftentimes I find wrestling goes with Torah very well. This is why Jacob wrestled the angel. Here with the Ger and the Jew, you must be loose and flexible to change levels. Sometimes the ger is malchus below. Sometimes he rises up to what's called zeranpin, the midsection of the tree of life. Sometimes the Jew is in the midsection, or sometimes raises or crouches low in the malchus. So for every teaching, if you're being dogmatic, you cannot get it. For example, if you keep Shabbos, you're going to die. Okay, there is such a precedent, which if you're a Russia and you're going to mock it. Now, what if you raise your level? Then, yes, it's an obligation to keep it. So whenever you see something and it doesn't click or doesn't go, change your level. Change your stance. Go up, go down. Torah is dynamic. There is no dogma and dogmatic approach to Torah. Jews are Gerim, Gerim are Jews. And pretty much everything is everything. You have to always know what the meaning is. Meaning you have to understand it, then you get the wisdom, as opposed to wisdom searching for the understanding. Okay. We have 2 verses that we're focusing on in the article. In Noah's Parsha, Noah saves the world. Hashem says, way to go, Noah. Blah, blah, blah. Now the part we care about, day and night shall not cease. And the words for shall not cease, I forget the exact language, but it says basically, in loose terms, don't stop. And Shabbos is literally the word stop, meaning day and night shall not stop. And people will say that means the non-Jew is not to keep Shabbos. It's a pasuk. And then we have, my Shabboses you shall observe. So it sounds like the Shabboses you shall observe wants to say this is the obligation, yet day and night shall not cease. You cannot keep it, so it's a contradiction. And my Sabbaths you shall observe. It's just a difficulty. We cannot resolve it. And that is what people will tell you. And unfortunately, it's not correct. When people say we can't understand it or solve it, 9 out of 10, and probably 10 out of 10, they did not take the ger into consideration. The pasuk or verse, my Sabbaths you shall observe. The story is, it should have said, my Sabbath you shall observe. But it says it in the plural, my Sabbaths you shall observe. And the very basic premise, and we get into the Ba here, he explains exactly that point. The Zohar then picks up from that point and then ties it into day and night shall not cease. Now let me first explain a simple premise. Shabbos is a rest day. Only it's a blessed rest day. If you want to rest on Tuesday, what you do is you stop working. Go lay down, take a nap, and rest. The less you work, the more you'll rest. Because it's not a blessed day, therefore it operates on the laws and rules of reality. God says, on the 7th day, I blessed it. And on the 7th day, I rest a little differently. When you take the words of Kiddush, the sanctification of Shabbos, on the 7th day, God rested from all the work that he created to do. Did you hear what I just said? He rested from the work that he created to do. That God gets creative and he works on Shabbos, and that is how he rests. Everyone says, no, we're told, or that's not what I was told. We're told that you're to rest on Shabbos. That is wrong. That is a fallacy, and it is wrong. We know that there are 39 prohibitive labors on Shabbos. You cannot write, you cannot cook, you cannot make a fire. Okay, there's a lot of things that when you preserve the 39 labors that you can't do, they call that creative labor. So technically, creative labor you cannot do. Yet we know that Shabbos is a time of Torah as opposed to emphasis of prayer. Now here's a trivia question. It's Friday night. The man has all of his friends over. He's leading the Shabbos table. the tzedekis righteous wife has cooked all Friday and Thursday night. She's setting the table when he goes to shul. She's serving the meal so the guy can sing the songs of Shabbos and talk Torah to his friends. And he says, man, thank God it's Shabbos. I got to rest. Honey, you take care of the dishes, okay? I'm going to go to bed, and you did good. We'll see you tomorrow, okay? Take care. Does anybody see a problem with this? Does anybody see a problem with the picture I just painted? Go ahead and type. Big problem here. She's working, and we don't really care about her, right? She's irrelevant. But we are entitled to rest. This is our rest day. So this is where the logic window goes out the window. You get up off your tuchus, put the dishes in the dishwasher, or in the sink, because there's no dishwasher on Shabbos, right? You help her out. You help cook, you help clean, you help serve, you are to help more than her. Now, if you think you're going to rest by doing nothing, I guarantee you, on Shabbos day, you will find how little you get to rest. Yet we know that there's Mazal, there's the Shekhinah, there's God. You do your part to make her feel that she's the Eishes Chayil that she is, and you work your tail off on Friday night. You work especially hard, more than you worked all week long. That to me is creative work. You think of ways to help that you never would have considered before. Then you will find that in the work, or on the seventh day, God rested from all the work that he created to do. Understand? Now it resonates a little differently, I assume. The more creative work we do on Shabbos, the more you rest. So I'm going to learn Torah, but I'm not going to learn creatively. I'm just going to read through it and be glad that I'm a Jew. No. No. You are to open the book, sit down, and really ponder what God is saying. And to the point of creative thought process, such that you are begging to write down the answers, but you can't because it's forbidden. Thus, the only way to preserve this knowledge is to go deeper. Meditate deeper, think deeper, give Torah over, work hard. When you work that hard, you will find that you have indeed rested more than had you just simply opened, looked at a couple of pages, closed it, and said, man, it's a good thing I'm not working hard today. Shabbos is the time for spiritual labor, intense spiritual, creative labor. Is that point given clear? Okay. Now that we have precedent of working hard, here's the analogy from the Bahir. A king has a wife, and he invites her to bring him joy one day a week. It's obvious what this is. Shabbos, the king, the queen. The king says, I also have two beautiful sons that I love. And why don't they bring me joy as well? They also can bring me glory. And the whole reason why I have this wife in the first place, and the day of joy in the first place, is so that they will one day come to have this joy and glorify with me. And there the Bahir explains that is the explanation of my Sabbaths you shall guard, as opposed to my Sabbath you shall guard. Very easy to see, Jews and Gerim together. Now, how does this work out practically? There are two kinds of people in this world, Jews and Gerim, in the terms of this analogy. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were Gerim, and they gave tradition to their sons and to their sons and to their sons, to the point where today I am a Jew and I am not a Ger. I was born into a tradition that goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. My merit comes from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Then there are Gerim. Gerim who are not born into the tradition. They do not have the merit of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, why? Because they are themselves a new Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham was a ger, the ger is a ger. It's not to say that you're lacking the merit of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's to say, do you know what kind of merit you have to be a ger? That's the revelation. That's when you realize what it is to be a ger, you will be keeping Shabbos, just like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The more we suppress the ger, then it's woe me, woe me. And the Jew is out of whack, everything's out of whack. When we elevate the ger, everything comes to focus. Then the Jew can properly take his merit in saying, well, hey, I only exist because of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Which, if you pay attention to Torah, that's what God keeps saying. That Israel has the merit of Gerim. There's an entity created in the world that when someone realizes he's a Ger, he is a joined member of Klal Yisrael. Thus you have, in the 7 days of creation, okay, the lower 7 attributes, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Chod, Yesod, Malchus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yet Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, we all know, are the embodiment of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that is 3. The 4th day, when God created the sun and the moon, he diminished the size of the moon. The moon is a hint of Malchus, kingship. The 7th attribute that brings the bounty into the worlds. That 4th day is actually a Shabbos, or a 4th revelation, or a Malchus revelation from the first 3. Yet it's a Shabbos or a Malchus that only takes its revelation on the 7th day, like an elongation. Let's call that one version. And then you have the regular Malchus, the regular 7th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? We see the 2 ways of getting to Shabbos. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? 4 equals 7. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And each one is a completely practical, applicable way of getting to Shabbos. They both work. Neither one's wrong, neither one's right. They both work. And once we understand now how the Jew and the Ger come to make the embodiment of this, then the Chassidus, the inner teachings go off the chart. So you have 2 systems. Why? Because Malchus by nature has 2 attributes. Some call it Leah and Rachel. Some call it Bina and Tavuna. There's a lot of Hebrew terms in Kabbalah to explain the concept of 2 types of kingship. It's almost viral. It's everywhere. It's a known factor that there are 2 types of Malchus. Thus, for Shabbos, by the laws of Kabbalah, you must and you will have 2 schools of Shabbos. Now, the thing is, go ahead and think very quickly which one's the Jew and which one's the Ger. Everybody, I'm sure, will say the 7th one in its place is the Jew, because that's the real one, they'll think. And the 4th one, the 1, 2, 3, 4, that's probably the Ger, because it's we'll just diminish it for the sake of, let's diminish the Ger, because that's what we do. And that is a speed trap. Wrong. The first Shabbos goes to the Jew as a connection to the Avot, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Mainly for that reason. And then it extends itself into the 7th day to take Shabbos day with the Gerim. The Gerim are the ones that fall out literally on the 7th day. Thus you have a real Malchus with Gerim, which is the real place of the Ger Tzedek, which is the closest to the world of Bria, the world beneath it, to bring the bounty down, which is the elevated status of the Ger Tzedek. The Jew then has the place on the 4th attribute in the 7th, and the reason is actually very simple. Shamor and Zachor, guard and remember the Shabbos. Gerim, their accentuation to Shabbos is Shamor. to guard the Shabbos. That's the whole nature of the Ger Tzedek. This is the way Joseph did the Shabbos, Abraham did the Shabbos. It's the natural way to keep Shabbos for a Ger. The Jews commanded in Zohar, whether it be the tradition or with the Avos, the forefathers, a lot of reasons. It's connected to Bina, the level of understanding. There's a lot of reasons why. But it comes out to be practical as well. And we're going to get to that practical in a second. Of how the Chassidus to it. It works out Kabbalistically, but then we're going to get to the practical. Shabbos is holy. Okay, when we keep Shabbos, at both peoples, Friday night, Saturday day, 1 day a week, the seventh level, whether it's Jew or Ger, all together, when they keep it totally together, Shabbos and the holiness comes into the world. Once there's holiness coming in, then you understand what it is to have the awe of God. If you're going to keep Shabbos alone and you say, what do the Jews ever do for me? If you're going to be a Jew and say, what do the Gerim think they're doing keeping Shabbos? If you're going to have animosity and no brotherhood, you will not have the awe of God. You will not understand the Torah of Tzilis. You will not understand the Torah of the Ger. You will continue to call yourself a goy. The Jew will call you a goy. The Jew then is really acting like the goy, and the ger is not allowed to act like a ger. That is back to back. It's hatred. It's the opposite of everything that this stands for. When they keep it together, when they understand both are meant to keep it together, brotherhood, love, ger tzedek, the Jew's acting like a real Jew, the ger tzedek is keeping the Shabbat like he's supposed to. Everything comes in the world, the brotherly love, the awesome reverence for God. Holiness comes into the world, and the light of redemption comes to the world. Because you find it on Shabbos, and if you go into Shabbos alone, you will not find it. On the sixth day, male and female, he created Adam. Now we have the very practical application. And this was taught to me by a Ger Tzedek. How do you view the week? And the analogy I give, how would you like to every week end on Thursday night? Okay? Your week ends Thursday night, and you're not getting your week back until Friday night. So imagine you can know if you go on vacation, it ends Thursday, and you don't get it back until Friday night. There is no more Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday day, Friday evening. Is anybody in this room willing to give that up? And there's no going back. It's 100%. It's eternal. Would you agree to such conditions? Go ahead and type. Anybody? You're interested in giving up your Fridays? Okay, interesting. No, it's not Shabbos day. It's Erev Shabbos day. It's the day of preparation, meaning there's nothing to do on those days. It's gone. It's dead weight. It does not exist. Friday night life stops, and you do not get anything. You've lost a day. The idea of the analogy is this. In the 6-day work week, it's a constant buildup. The buildup goes all the way through Friday, right? It's a nice way of saying this, you're losing your Friday. Would you like to have Friday gone from your weekend? That's the basic way of putting it. There's no more Friday. It's gone. It's not a time for any personal delight, anything personal. So when you have this kind of consciousness of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if you view your life that way, then Friday night becomes an absolute blast. It's a total rush. It's a masculine buildup. Which that's why the ger has not a portion of Zohar, but Shamor. Zohar also means masculine. Meaning the method of work week is already masculine. You don't need more masculine. Whereas the Jewish lifestyle is feminine. So it needs an infusion of masculine, Zohar. The difference is this. The ger rushes into Friday night meal, electrified, illuminated, excited, ready to go to work. Let's talk about God. Let's read. Let's learn. Invigorated. It's an electric time. The alternative is 1, 2, 3, 4 revealed on Shabbos. And that is the idea of Saturday, of Shabbos day. The ger and the Jew each have a different function of how to reap the benefits of Shabbos. Jewish lifestyle, of a feminine existence, of preparing Thursday night, Friday day, so that preparations are done on Shabbos, as opposed to a constant buildup. It's just a way of how societies run, how our lives are run, how we view a work week. We all know that a woman's bodily cycle is not the same as a man's. And frankly, most men probably wouldn't want it. And probably women might not want to exchange it. A man likes being a man, a woman likes being a woman. Well, here too, a ger likes being a ger, and a Jew likes being a Jew. There's no reason to perpetrate the other. The Jew, by Friday night, has less commandments, less responsibilities, less obligations. It's a time of utterly collapsing and just going into Shabbos with a sigh of relief. We made it. Now we're with God. Whereas the ger perspective is a build-up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank God we're here. Let the party begin. What this is akin to is shifts. It's like shifts of working hard. The ger says, we're in Shabbos. Let Klal Yisrael rest. Go to rest. Go to sleep. I'm in bed by 8 p.m. on Friday night. 8 p.m. I'm knocked out. In fact, this past Friday, we were supposed to go to the hotel with the kids. I called for them. They collapsed. Didn't want to wake up. We never went to the hotel. I just ate whatever was here. Everyone was out by 8 o'clock. Even before. Knocked out. And to me, it was the greatest thing ever. So now, the ger then takes the bull by the horns, working hard, bringing the shift to closure, going into Saturday, resting. The Jew now is resting Friday night. So now comes Shabbos day, right? Day and night shall not cease. My Shabboses you shall guard. The Jews now have all day long, they're rested to do the hard spiritual labor. The shift turns over from Friday night, the ger, to Shabbos day, the Jew. The Jew now runs through the Shabbos day with that endurance, not running into Shabbos, but running out of Shabbos. And not running out like they ran from Mount Sinai to not have mitzvahs, but rather get to the best part of the day. It's called Ravin de Ravin, just before the sun goes down on Shabbos. It's a build-up in the opposite direction. Nobody is good enough to do both. It just doesn't exist. We have limitations in our body. We must sleep. We must rest. Sleeping is part of the working hard. One must go to sleep early. One must sleep on the second part. Thus you have day and night are separate services. Yes, the Jews keep night and day. Yes, the ger keeps night and day. We're not saying that it's a half a Shabbos chas v'sholom. We're saying, again, raising the level. Where is the level of the ger best suited? Night. Where is the level of the Jew best suited? Day. Thus the Zohar says, when you have the Shabbat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that best suits the night. And 1, 2, 3, 4 on 7 best suits day. Thus there's the Kiddush of the night and the Kiddush of the day. When they work together, it's a perfect partnership, a perfect harmony. Then, ultimately, when the two join on Shabbos, when the Gerim are now taking Shabbos in on Friday, imagine when the Jew comes to the Ger's table, he will find life that he never knew. And when the Ger then comes in the presence of the Jew on Shabbos day, he will find life he never knew. This is the premise of the Ger Tzedek who keeps the Shabbat. Why? Why does the Ger Tzedek keep Shabbat in the Ten Commandments? Because he comes from a far distance to keep Shabbos with a Jew, and he has to keep it. That's a nice way of saying all through Shabbos day. If they're going to be together Shabbos day, then all the more so they were together Shabbos night. When they get together, they will bring the lights of Shabbos into the world, all the more so the holiness, all the more so the brotherhood. As a personal experience of such a thing, I've experienced it. And I'm still reaping the benefit of that light today, and I know that the Ger Tzedek in mind is as well. In fact, it's the engine behind Yeshivat Shem V'Aver. All it took was one Shabbos. Imagine if that Shabbos goes viral. That is how you repair the schism. And the Talmud Sanhedrin, the Tosfos commentary explains, then why do we say that the non-Jew cannot keep Shabbos? They give a parable of a mother who's giving birth, and she's in danger. The baby's limb comes out. You can actually remove the baby's limb to save the mother. But if the head comes through, the mother's life is taken by God, the baby must be born. That baby's head is the Shabbos that falls on the Gerim. We must be able to see in our generation right now, that head is out. The time for Shabbos is now. The king has called for his two sons, the Ger Toshav and Ger Tzedek, to keep the Shabbos. And what better place to keep Shabbos than Parashas Noach? Zohar says Noah is Shabbos. Noah's name means menucha, to rest. Now notice there's a lot of 7s and 2s and 1s in Parashas Noach. Maybe you've heard of Sukkot, 7-day holiday. Maybe you've heard of Passover, 7-day holiday. Maybe you've heard of Rosh Hashanah, a 2-day holiday. Shavuos, a 2-day holiday. The Zohar says these numbers in Noah are telling you that the Ger, or the Bnei Noach, are to partake in the Jewish year. Torah, Parsha, holidays, Shabbos. Did you get the feel in the Parsha that sounds a little bit Jewish? In the structure of the days and the times? Yet it's not a Jewish Parsha? Because the Ger is meant to keep the Jewish year. The world is Ger Toshav. There's one time for the land for two people. And that's how it comes to be. You will know a people that you didn't know. They will come running to you. And we have to answer the famous question. If Noah was in Abraham's time, he would not have amounted to anything. We all know this. What a fallacy that is. Noah represents the truth. Can we just get to the truth already? Abraham represents Noah. You have to understand something. There's something called B'nai Ish and B'nai Adam. Everyone really can be a B'nai Ish. We can all get to the truth. But you know what? People like Sheker. They just do. Abraham makes Gerim so that one day they can connect to who Noah really is. And Noah really is synonymous with Shem. Abraham says, let me be the program to let you know what the Shem program is. It's taking the second tablet's mindset, the 10 Commandments, and elevating it to the first. Thus, Noah wouldn't have been anything in Abraham's generation. Because people simply want a lower revelation. They come out of idolatry, they say, hey, let's take it slow here. You can't put the Ger on people, they just have nothing to grab onto. That's the irony of the program. Noah says, get to the truth already. Abraham says, they'll get there. Let me make Gerim first. And when they become a Ger, then they'll become a Ger Tzedek. They'll realize that they are so far away one day that they're going to die, do anything to get with the wings of the Shekhinah to come close to God. Thus, Noah may not have been anything in Abraham's generation, but Noah is the goal. Shem is the goal. If you look, who's missing from the Parsha? Who's missing from every article you'll read this week? Shem, the son of Noah. If you see, we know that Shem ate from the tree of life and lived. When you look at Shem's lineage in the Torah, notice that not one of his offspring is labeled to having died. Every other place in the Torah says this one lived and died, this one lived and died. Every generation from Shem through Abraham, they never died until Terach. So when the Tower of Babylon was going on, which is the seeds of Zerubbabel, the level of Mashiach and the allegorical level in the future, where was Abraham? Where was Shem? Where was Shem? They were in Yerushalayim. Abraham called it Yira, awe, the level that Shabbat was coming down. Shem called it Shalom. If there's going to be Shabbat, then you'll find Shalom. They put it together. They stood in Yerushalayim, Yira Shalom. The essence of the Parsha is Mepia Gevura. From the mouth of God I heard too. Whether it's Shabbat Shalom, whether it's Yira Shalom, Yerushalayim, whether it's what Shem and Noah learned on the boat, kindness and truth will get you through the birth pangs of the Messiah. Shem ate from the tree of life and lived. That is the path of the tree of life. After Adam and Eve got exiled from the garden, the fear of God is what Shem learned from Noah. The power of Shabbat. To have eaten of the tree of life, not having sinned and lived. And from Shem's hand, we find Abraham, who's the first of the Gerim, the Ger Tzedek program, which will be the father of the greater house of Israel that houses Jews and Gerim together as one. There's one simple message to learn out of Parashas Noach. If we're going to say Shabbat Shalom, what's the product? Where do we see that it matters? The answer is the Torah of Shem in the derech, the path of the tree of life. Shem was said to have eaten of the tree of life. He ate and lived forever. Thus, in Parashas Bereshis, we got acquainted with these levels and got kicked out. Parashas Noach saved the world. It alludes to the future Mashiach in the Geula. But underneath of it all, while we're busy criticizing Noah and praising Abraham, the star of the show is the one that never got the airtime, the Shabbat Shalom of Shem, the son of Noah. Thank you very much. Have a great week. See everyone for the Ger on Wednesday and Lech Lecha on Shabbos. Have a good week.